Hey, why don't we go ahead and get started? So, hello everyone. Welcome to Ask the Grant Writing Experts. I'm Dr. Meg Bouvier. You know me as the creator of your library of NIH grantsmanship courses. I have over 35 years of experience at NIH as an applicant, an intramural researcher, a staff writer, and now as a full-time NIH grant mentor. I've helped clients land over $500 million in federal funding, and I'm here to answer your NIH grant writing questions. So grab a cup of coffee or ice water if you're living in a climate like mine right now, and let's get started. So if you're attending live, just a reminder that you're in listen only mode. You can put your questions in the Q&A box. So you can start typing your questions now. I'm going to do a mini tutorial today, but feel free to start putting questions in the Q&A box. And if you are watching this as a recording, and more people are doing that, just a reminder that things change quickly at NIH. It's June 25th, 2025, and everything that I'm saying today is true to the best of my knowledge, but things are moving even faster than usual at NIH. So be sure to verify everything with program officers and the NIH website. So, what you should be viewing in the library right now, well, I would imagine that many of you are here because you're early birds who are gearing up for your fall deadline. God bless you. That's just such a great thing. I'm so happy that people are like giving themselves a nice long runway to write. That's always a good thing to optimize success. So if that's the case, I would say you probably want to be looking at Master the R Series chapters 1 and 2 as you prepare your Ames page and think about how to vet your project idea, which institute might be a good fit, and which study section and things like that. And probably beginning to finalize some of that, I hope, by the end of June. And by July, you're moving into the intensive writing of the research strategy, which would mean moving on to chapter 3 of where we talk about significance and innovation writing. So the other thing is that we have one more week of boot camp. Even if you couldn't make the other boot camp sessions, you should have those recordings on your dashboard. If you're not seeing them on your course dashboard, let us know. You can either type it into the chat right now, or you can email me at meg@bouviergrant.com, and we'll make sure that that's on your dashboard. It should be there already, but we had somebody this morning where it wasn't showing up. So in case that's an issue, just let us know. We do have also our monthly office hours. If you want to come for a very informal kind of drop in and get advising, let us know. We'll put the sign up for that in the chat. And again, if you have any problems signing up for that, just email us and let us know. But otherwise, I hope to see some of you maybe next Tuesday at 2 p.m. Eastern for the last chapter of Master the R Series Live, or check out the recordings of them in your course dashboard. These versions, the bootcamp recordings of Master the R Series, are updated like this week. So they really have like up to the minute information about what's going on at NIH. And I've included some new samples and templates in most of the sections. So I would encourage you to check that out. So any NIH updates? I'm trying to think if anything came out in the last 2 weeks. I think I may have said this already, but we we have been talking about some of the NOFOs that were expired early and on very short notice. So some of those have already been reissued. So I think the DP2 has come out already. I'm trying to think of what else. I think the CATS was reissued. Some of them are already being reissued. So that's good news. And then there was this very cryptic notice that came out, which was just kind of shocking to me, where it said it's NOTOD 25116. So I'm going to put that in the chat, where it basically said applications already submitted under the expired NOFOs will be reviewed in summer 2025 review meetings under the simplified review framework. Applicants who are planning to apply to the expired NOFOs for future review cycles should instead consider applying through a suitable parent announcement. So basically, if you had the good fortune to have uploaded early to one of those early expired NOFOs, so like you actually were able to upload because the NOFO was still open and you just happened to upload early, you might have the opportunity to be reviewed this summer. And those of you who were planning on uploading on time are just shit out of luck, apparently. This is like complete insanity to me. Because it seems like you're penalizing people simply for uploading before the deadline, but not long enough before the deadline. That makes no sense to me, but that is the notice that came out. So I am gonna put the notice for that. Let's see. I'll just drop the URL for that in the chat so that people have that. Info about early expired NOFOs. Send that to everyone. Yeah, so that was a little bit of a shocker. Yeah, that's the right one. Okay, it's a long URL, but you should be able to click on that in the chat. So anyway, so that was an exciting piece of information from NIH that was a little bit shocking. So, all right, so let's talk a little bit about today's mini tutorial. There's one question in the Q&A, so let me just take a quick look at that. This is a question from somebody I'm doing one-on-one work. So if you could email that question to either me or Erin, that would be helpful because that's not a question for AGE. The person who just asked me about the Ames page, just email me, meg@bouviergrant.com. You could send it or not. It either way is fine. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about rebuttals. So this is something that, there are certain things at NIH that go in and out of vogue. And one of them, there are lots of them, right? Like whether or not they are using the R56 mechanism, which is at the program officer's discretion. There are years where nobody uses it and years where it comes back into vogue. So this is the case with rebuttal letters as well. So what is a rebuttal letter? It goes by a variety of different names, but basically it is if you come out of the first level of review at the study section, the scientific review group, the review panel, and you are somewhere near the funding line, but it's not a slam dunk. So like it's not as if you scored like in the second percentile on the R1 where it's like kind of a slam dunk that you're going to get funded. Maybe you're somewhere in the vicinity of the funding line, but it's kind of a gray area and it's not entirely clear you're going to be funded. Sometimes the program officer will say to you in advance of the meeting, the second level of review, which takes place at the meeting for the advisory council. So just let me back up for a second. So for those who don't know, there are two levels of review at NIH. The first level of review is at the study section meeting or scientific review group or review panel. That's where a panel of your peers assess the science and award a score. They award a score, they don't award money. So the second level of review is where money is awarded. So the second level of review takes place at the meeting of the advisory council to the institute. So there are 27 institutes and centers. Each one of them has an advisory council, and that council advises the institute director on all matters of running the business of the institute. So some of that is open to the public. There are like press releases that are presented in the public portion of it, but there's always closed sessions where the group talks about things like the budget, and they talk about things like awarding grants, and the council votes on which grants to award. So sometimes the program officer, after the first level of review and before the second level of review, the program officer might email the PI and say, I would like you to prepare for me a rebuttal letter or talking points, or it goes by various names, but you get the idea. And basically, what they're asking you for is the PO is saying, I need to walk into that council meeting and make a pitch for your application to be funded, and I need you to create the talking points for me. So they usually give very little guidance on what to include in this rebuttal letter. Typically, they'll ask for it to be 1 to 2 pages long. And basically it's something that they're going to have in front of them, either in a hard copy form or in front of their like on their computer screen, where they're going to be using it as talking points. So they're going to be glancing down and like making an oral pitch, and these are just talking points for them to work from. And they're going to be trying to argue persuasively for the council to vote for your application to be funded. So, so this is once again not a document that is read quietly from start to finish. It's a document that is skimmed while somebody is presenting the points. So, this is something that needs to be written like talking points. There's no template for this. It's just, you just kind of make it up, and send it to the program officer and see how they respond to it. So I have had a sharp increase in requests for help on these, which leads me to believe that a lot more program officers are requesting them this summer. So I thought it would be a good idea to show you some templates. So these are not samples, they're templates, because these are applications that are active, where the funding decision is still up in the air. And so I can't show you the details of them, but I can show you enough to help you get started on this. So I have 3 templates. The first one is from an R01 for NCI. Okay, hold on one sec. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, I'm not expecting you to read this just yet. I just want to show you that this is kind of like a one-page template that I'm going to give you in this version. The other 2 are going to be 2-page templates. But let's zoom in for a second. So they're usually 2 pages, but lately there have been more requests for 1-pagers. So this is from an R01 from, I think it was submitted last November, and I think the request came this spring. So typically I write at the top rebuttal, and then I put the title of the application, the names of the PIs, the applicant organization, the review group, the SRG study section, whatever the name of that is, the type of NOFO. So like if it's, like an R01 application, it would be like PA 25301, I think is the new parent R01. And then the application number. So I've put X's here, but of course you'd have some, numbers in there. And then the template that I created for this one is to have a few sentences to a short paragraph that summarizes the project and emphasizes the impact, and then a bulleted list of the strengths that would occupy like 2/3 of the page. So you're going to restate the items that the reviewers like. And in particular, you're going to look at those items through the lens of program staff, right? So not through a scientific lens, but through like an institute alignment and budgetary lens. So you're going to be looking at things like, are there items in their recent appropriation report or in any of their strategic planning documents that this application addresses? If so, triage that to the top. Like think about your audience. And because of the nature of the current administration, I would say the other things you really want to emphasize here are if there are any ways that there are cost efficiencies, and that could take several different forms. It could be, for example, we are proposing something and we're going to be studying like Medicaid data, and we are going to find the most cost-effective, efficacious modelings, like a modeling system that helps us deliver this type of care in the most efficacious and cost-effective way. It could be something like that, like making care delivery very cost-effective or efficacious. Or it could be something like we're going to capitalize on an existing database. So like this, NIH has already poured money into establishing this database or this biorepository or whatever it is. And we're proposing a study that makes use of those data. So we're potentiating the existing federal investment in that database. So it could be language like that. Any kind of language like that is going to play well with the current administration and therefore with council. So those are the kinds of things you want to emphasize. You also want to emphasize any case where you can make a case for getting the most bang for the buck. So we're looking at this molecular mechanism in this specific type of cancer. However, this mechanism is at play in all these other types of diseases, or the type of tools that we're optimizing to look at this mechanism are applicable to other types of mechanisms in other disease areas. Anything where you can say, like, you're going to get hey, council, you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck if you invest your money in my R1. So that's the kind of language that's going to play well at council. Then the next thing you want to do is have your response to key critiques. So you're going to pick the most high-level critiques that existed in the summary statement and give your responses to them, like, oh, yes, we agree, we'll do X, Y, and Z that you suggested. So that's one template. And I have two others that I want to share with you that have a little more detail. So the next one we worked on in May. This is for a transformative R01, which is a type of high-risk, high-reward mechanism out of the Office of the Director. It's funded out of the Common Fund. So again, I'm going to show you the zoomed-out version first. I'm not expecting you to read this, but like this is what the layout looked like, and I just grayed out the actual text. But this went on for 2 pages. So that was 1 2/3 pages. That was the actual length of the document. I'm not expecting you to be able to read that. So let's zoom in and take a look at what's here. And I left in my comments that I made for the applicant. So again, rebuttal at the top, title, PI's applicant organization, review group. In this case, it was the RFA RM 24004 Transformative Award. And then, of course, you would put your numbers in there for the application number. So in this case, the project summary was like 10 lines. I think that's about the longest I would do. I often do them shorter than that. And bulleting those can be helpful too, because again, the program officer is using this as talking points. So in this particular instance, because it was a TR01, a transformative R01, we included a little section about potential for transformative impact, which is a key aspect of this particular mechanism. So if you're writing a rebuttal letter that is, like a topic-specific RFA, you would probably want to include something either as a separate standalone section or within the summary that talks about how perfectly the project fits the intent of the mechanism. So this would only be if it's not like a parent mechanism, right? So in this instance, we also included broad applicability, cross-cutting science, and conceptual novelty, all of which are germane to the TR01 because it's a transformative R01. It's meant to be high risk, high reward. So this was a way of presenting the strengths of the application in a context that shows how it fits the intent of the NOFO. Okay, so that's a little bit different than if you're doing it for a parent announcement. And then in this instance, we had on the second page, de-emphasizing it by putting it on the second page, we have the responses to the critiques. So here, we just underlined a phrase that captured a key critique. So in this instance, it was differences of opinion about significance and innovation, limited conceptual novelty. That kind of summarized an issue that some of the reviewers had, and then the applicant responded to that. Skepticism about broad applicability, their response to that. And then it's anonymized. XYZ modeling aspects are underdeveloped and perhaps unnecessary, and the applicant's response to that. And sometimes the response is we disagree. You don't want to say it that way, but answer with facts. But it's not always going to be, oh, yes, you're right, we're going to change what we're doing. Sometimes you're going to stand your ground and you're just going to respond with facts about why you're standing your ground. So that was the the TR01 version that we wrote in May. And then even more recently in June, we worked on another R01 rebuttal. And again, I'm going to zoom out and share that with you. This is the last one. So again, I'm not expecting you to read this. I just want you to see how the 2 pages are laid out. So summary of projects, the strengths, and then the response to the reviewers. And we will zoom in and take a look at, by graying out the text, I can give you a sense of how space is apportioned on the page. Because that's the actual amount of space that the text took up. So again, titles, MPIs, applicant organization, review group. This was to the parent R01 and the number. Here was the summary of the project. And then the strengths are, we will leverage an existing NHLBI biorepository. So again, capitalizing on an existing, the Institute's existing prior investment. We're going to give you more bang for the buck of something you invested in previously. The XX study has, and again, it's all anonymized, has the potential to advance pivotal clinical studies and trials, which was a phrase lifted from the summary statement, and then information on that. XX will advance understanding of biological pathways, broad cross-cutting impact, and reviewers commended our outstanding investigative team. So those were the headers that we used as the structure for summarizing the high-level strengths of the application. And then in this instance, the reason that I wanted to show you this version of the rebuttal letter is that we really wanted to highlight that they had a lot of recent publications that addressed some of the critiques that the reviewers had. So here, the response to reviewers, the authors felt that the summary statement helpfully pointed out 3 key concerns about the proposed project. The team provided the following response to each of the critiques. So this is almost like a version of an introduction to a revised application, but it's like a watered down version of it where you're still pitching for funding on the A0, but at the second level of review. The team provided the following response to each of the critiques. It's worth noting that the team has collectively published 7 recent original articles, bolded so the PO can't miss that directly address the concerns of the reviewers. So the 3 concerns were unclear impact on the current treatment. So they responded to that and the list bulleted the publications that addressed that. Concerns that the project only provides correlative data, their response to that, and the publications that address that concern, and need to consider confounding factors that could affect XX in the analysis plan and their response in the publications. So in this instance, the big selling point is all of these publications that occurred since they submitted. This is pretty unusual for a group to be moving on to the second level of review. And oh my God, we have 7 new publications that we now need to talk about. That's kind of unusual, but you might have like 2 that you want to talk about. So this is one way of handling that, is just kind of bullet pointing those. So anyway, that's something that I thought might be useful to people. Given that there seems to be quite an uptick in requests for these rebuttals from program officers. So I'm happy to answer any questions about the rebuttal letters. And I'll take a look at, there's a question in the Q&A. Feel free to type in more questions in the Q&A box. So Here's a question. While working on my grant, I realized I could collaborate with someone from a different department within the same institute. I'm considering requesting a letter of support from them. However, since I am an instructor and they are a professor, I'm unsure whether it would be more appropriate to approach them directly or to go through my PI. Um, So it sounds like is part the work that you're hoping to do with this person is a part of a grant that your PI is on? It sounds like that's the or that you're proposing. It's probably best to have the PI approach the person, or the PI could be CC'd on that. They could be CC'd on that email, not be CC'd on that email. But it's always better to talk to your PI about the possibility of collaborating with that person. There may be a reason that they definitely do or do not want to collaborate with that person, based on their experience with working with them in the past, or just how well they would fit into the team, or the budget that's allocated, and whether they duplicate effort on the team or whatever. But I think it's always better to go through the PI in a situation like that. So, any other questions for me? So, I'm gonna wait a few minutes to see if there are any other questions. And I'll just say again that we have boot camp on on Tuesday, if anybody wants to go to that. Would love to see you there. Here's another one. This is really helpful. I'm wondering if it would be helpful to do something like this for the initial PO meetings before you're even at the stage of review. Um, well, I think that's a different thing, right? Because the rebuttal letter is really meant to be talking points to convince for the PO to convince council members to fund the project. So, in it, but you raise an interesting point, because I am a big advocate of vetting your project idea before you write the application with the PO. I just think that in that instance, it's a slightly different audience. So, I I definitely think that you should draft an Ames page, like a full Ames page in that instance for the program officer to look at. The program officer needs to be advising you about the science, right? So potential, potentially the biggest hurdle to clear in review is the first level of review. Because if your peers do not give the stamp of approval to the science, you're dead in the water. So like if they rank you 40th percentile in your cohort, you're never even going to get an audience with counsel. So I would say that the point of meeting with the program officer at the beginning, when you're vetting the project idea, and I talk about this extensively for those of the person who asked the question knows this, but for those of you who are new, I talk about this extensively in Master the R Series Chapter 1 preparation, and somewhat in Chapter 2 as well. The point of that is to get the program officer's input, largely on the science, of course, also on alignment with the Institute mission. But like, is the scope of the project appropriate? Like, am I thinking about the right mechanism? If, like, am I thinking of the right study section? I'm trying to decide between two study sections. Which of these is most likely to be favorable to this kind of a project design? Like, you're trying to get in that first call with the program officer before you write the application. You're really trying to get some high level intelligence from the program officer on how to clear that first level of review in the study section, where you're being reviewed by your peers. There is some element of mission alignment and making sure the Institute is interested in all of that, but the rebuttal letter is nothing but mission alignment and, bang for the buck and, that kind of thing. So it's a slightly different spin on trying to convince the program officer that this is worthwhile, but also have them advocate for you and give you high-level advising. So at the pre-writing meeting with the program officer, it's a lot about the science, and in the rebuttal letter, it's a lot about mission alignment. And of course, there's an element of both mission alignment and science in both of these documents, but each of them focuses more on one element than the other. I'm submitting a DoD grant and have heard that there is some strategic value to being under the budget limits to make it more likely that the council will fund it. Is this likely to have a meaningful impact, or is it not something that is considered? Thank you so much for all of your help and advice. I actually don't do DoD, so I don't have any input on that. I know that we recently had Emily Clemens here like 2 weeks ago talking about CDMRP portfolio. If anybody in the audience knows the answer to this, let me know. So again, the question is, for a DoD grant, this person has heard that there is some strategic value to being under the budget limits to make it more likely that the council will fund it. Is that true? At NIH, I will say that that can definitely be true, particularly for a first-time R01 applicant, that there's some conventional wisdom that you should just use a modular budget and maybe not propose a 5-year R01 straight out of the gate. Some people feel like it's better to like propose a 4-year R01. So I know that at least at NIH, there is a line of thinking that does agree with that. Not everybody agrees with that, and certainly some first-time R01 applicants are at the budget limit in 5 years. But yeah, I don't know the answer to DoD because I don't work on those applications. If anybody knows, feel free to write in. Could you please suggest agencies or organizations that provide funding for autism research? Oh my goodness. So yeah, if you're an autism researcher, you probably want to steer clear of NIH right now. And I don't know of other federal agencies that do it. And again, because I'm an NIH expert, so I don't know the portfolio outside of NIH. Obviously, with RFK as the head of DHHS, autism is in turmoil, right? Autism research at NIH is in turmoil right now. And I would imagine that any other federal agencies under the HHS umbrella are going to face the same problems because they're under RFK. But I surely there are foundations that do autism research. Okay, this person is saying, I think NIH recently an OT on autism. I'll try to find. I don't know what that means, but this is an RD who's saying she's there was something that came out recently. There are several things that NIH has done about autism recently, not least of which is the Autism Advisory Council. It's an other transaction agreement, NOT. There's an autism advisory council that was supposed to be nonpartisan, and RFK fired everybody and is putting his own people in. And I've seen some kooky NOFOs that have come out pertaining to autism lately that are concerning. Okay, so this person, so Kaylin, can you drop that? I don't know if you can drop that in the chat. I'm going to try and do it for you. This person has or maybe, Riley, can you grab Kaylin just put a URL in the Q&A. Can you drop that in the chat to everybody so that they can see it? It's related to, actually, I'm going to click on it myself and see if this is the one yeah. So, yeah, there have been some questionable things coming out lately concerning autism, as I'm sure people know, but I would say that, I don't know which organization you're at, the person who asked the question, but surely if you're at a sizable university or academic medical center, there's some sort of pre-award support to help look for foundation funding. So sometimes it's a separate office like corporate and foundation relations. Sometimes it's a separate individual that is housed within your pre-award support office. A lot of my clients have subscriptions to search engines like Pivot and similar things like that that would help you identify funding opportunity announcements at private foundations. I would identify who that person, just talk to somebody in your pre-award support office or research development office and ask them, like I'm trying to find um, uh, foundation funding for autism research. With whom should I speak about that, and what databases do you subscribe to as, an organization that I can use to identify those funding opportunity announcements. So I received a DoD TERP award, and from my experience, I think the pre-programmatic panel and scientific review both focus on the science and DoD research missions. The budget considerations come after the application has been quote unquote considered for funding. This is from my experience, but we know that with the current administration, things have changed, so who knows? So that's really helpful. So it sounds like, like in typical times, maybe it wouldn't have been a huge concern to be under below the budget. Um, you might want to, again, talk to somebody in your pre-award support office who is processing many DoD applications and see if they have some conventional wisdom about that. I mean, alternatively, you could contact Emily Clemens and ask her because she's a CDMRP person. So I don't, Riley, do you have Emily's contact information handy, or could you pull that up? She was at the last AGE. I can actually put her name in the chat, and people could do a web search on her. I think it's MONS. I think that's her name, Emily Clemens, PhD. So yeah, she would be the one to ask. She was just on talking about CDMRP. Let's see, where is she? I'm not immediately pulling her up. Maybe it's ENS. Yeah, so she's at Artemis Editing. It is ENS. I'll put a link to her about page in the chat. Oh, it's already there. She beat me to it. So Riley already has Dr. Clemens at Artemis Editing and the website and her email address. She is a recently retired program officer from DoD. So she participated in overseeing the CDMRP portfolio, and now has a business helping grant applicants with this kind of stuff. So she may even have blog posts on this, but you could email her. She would know better than I, or ask people in your pre-award support office who process a lot of DoD applications, and particularly if you're at a university that's high volume in terms of federal grant applications, you probably have somebody in your pre-award support office who would know the answer to that question. Any other questions for me today? You can tell we're moving into summer because we have a smaller group than usual. So, all right. So I think, let's see, today is June 25th. I'm going to pull up my topic for next time. I think we are doing, let's see, I think we're doing a mini tutorial on the types of NOFOs that could help you plan for a future R01 funded clinical trial. I'm pretty sure that's the next one. Let's see. Oh no, I'm sorry. July 9th is a Q&A. And July 23rd is which NIH mechanisms can help you prep for a future R01 funded clinical trial. So that one is going to be, we're going to talk about like the R34 and R21 as used as a clinical trial planning grant, and the R61, R33, the phased mechanism. So the relative merits, like why would you pick one over another? Aside from the obvious, like your institute sponsors only one of these, which should you choose to help you prepare for a future full-scale clinical trial at the R01 level. So it's a question that I seem to get a lot. So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of, figure that out and, like give that as a holistic thing. Why would you pick one of these over the others? Um, Based on time and budget and intent and that kind of thing. So hopefully that will be helpful to people. Also, I will be writing a blog post on today's mini tutorial having to do with rebuttals. I've just been swamped with resubmission edits. So that will be coming out probably sometime next week. So that'll be on the website at that point. So do people have other questions for me today? And again, just a reminder, we have our last boot camp session next Tuesday, and 2 weeks from today, a Q&A on, just a general Q&A. So, okay, if people don't have other questions for me, I'm going to sign off. I will wish everybody the very best of luck, and as the French would say, courage. And I'm wishing you all the very best and stay cool and stay calm. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks or next Tuesday at boot camp. Have a great day, everybody. Bye bye.